In the early 2000s, when I still went to GameStop before I figured out that they were basically corporate dickwads, I got a game used called Custom Robo for $9.99. A little barcode thing, barely visible. You can barely even see the price. That's how 2000s it is. I don't know. Anyway, this is back when the internet existed. I just didn't have a good amount of connection to it. So video games were still just look at the box and judge it from that. That's why I never got the Smash Brothers everyone likes. I can't say it right. Anyway, I never got it because the box art was good, but it wasn't good enough, and I didn't know what it was. Anyway, Custom Robo stuck out at me because it looks awesome. I mean, most of the box art is just like from the opening cutscene, which admittedly looks better than the game. So they did have that going for them, but I'll read the little blurb on the back, which just sums up why everyone would probably want this game in the early 2000s as a youngster with no internet and no outside influences. Design your custom robo warrior and battle your friends in a virtual arena. Create countless robo variations using nearly 200 specialized pods, including bodies, legs, guns, bombs, and homing pods. Set your strategy, customize your robo, and enter the Holosseum. And then it lists 50 plus guns, 30 plus bombs, 30 plus pods, 15 plus legs, and it shows some examples. Again, I will be showing the cutscene in the background, and again, it's like the box art is just stills from this, but again, cutscene looks pretty good. I really wish this game had an anime, because that would have been really cool, because it's clearly clearly could easily be adapted into anime. Also, this is the first game in this series that was adapted into English, and then they did another one for the Game Boy, which I didn't play, but I want to. And then just disappeared after that. I'm too lazy to look it up. Go look it up if you want to. Anyway, the game is split up into 3 modes. The first one's the story mode, where you're going to spend the bulk of your time, because that's where you unlock most of the parts, because when you start the game you get nothing. But the story mode is also an extended tutorial, but it's not preachy. It is kind of preachy, but it's not annoying about it. It's not like a new Pokemon game where you have to spend an hour before you get another hour of cutscenes to tell you things you already know. Anyway, story mode, it's split into 2 chapters. First chapter is more story based, and the second one's an aftermath thing where you just do a bunch of competitions where you are given set goals and restrictions. One might say you can only use a part once, so you have to pool your resources. Ooh, okay, that one's a slow robot, so I should use this weapon now, but now I can't use it next round, and it would be better for that one anyway. And you try to get the most points possible and first place. There's a lot of them. They bring in a lot of the side characters you meet in the first chapter, who are quirky and funny and would fit in anime. Anyway, the first chapter I'll go over now because it's more important. It has you basically, your father was mysterious. He did some job, you have no idea what. He dies mysteriously, leaves you a lot of money, and you're 18 to 20 at least, and that money's run out. You gotta go get yourself a job, so you're gonna go interview at the Steel Hearts, where you basically meet up with your best friend, who I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I will put it in editing. Basically, he's Brock from Pokemon, as throughout the entire game, all he does is hit on every female that is not the only other female that works at this place, his sister, for obvious reasons, and a married woman. Those are the only 3 people he didn't hit on, but everyone else, he hit on them. Anyway, you basically learn that in this world, everyone has these things called custom robos, which are little robots in cubes. You fight them in little arenas, and everyone basically has one except you, and they're really expensive. Really expensive, to the point where since you're broke, you can't buy one, and you need one for your job. Anyway, Harry was the guy that I was mentioning earlier that's like Brock. Good thing I remember his name, now I don't have to edit. He convinces your soon-to-be boss, that looks kind of like One Punch Man, but with facial hair, that you should let him come to the job that you're going to be called into because the local laboratory is getting attacked. Anyway, you're dragged there, and you find yourself a custom robo that you steal. Because the way they work is they're little cubes, they scan your eye, and then they can't work for anyone else. And they're kind of like weapons, because they have like a safety, like a gun, and if that's off, you can like kill someone if you defeat them hard enough. It's really anime. Anyway, since you can't return it, it's now yours, and you're given to you by the scientist woman, and you are then free to join the Steel Hearts, bounty hunters. And then, like anything that involves bounty hunters, the entire game, you're trying to fight a stereotype that you're terrible. Quite hilarious. Anyway, as you continue to do other objectives day by day, set missions and whatnot, you then uncover a secret organization called the Z Organization, who function basically like Team Rocket and are trying to do nefarious things around town, which is this weird city that is kind of like domed in. And as you go throughout the game, you learn more about them and their motives and the dark secret that's been hidden by the police. Anyway, I want to keep this vague because, well, it's not like the most original story by any means, or the most exciting, or like the best or anything. It's part of the game, so it's kind of, you lose a little bit if you already know it. I'm sure you can go look it up on the internet if you wanted to, but anyway, you figure out more about them, and then there's a bad guy, and you defeat it, and then you go to Chapter 2, which I already explained. Anyway, part of the charm of this game, other than the combat, is during the story you meet a great cast of quirky characters. To name a few, I'm going to describe them. I don't remember all their names. There's Evil. He's like your first like bad guy. You know, as obvious as his name is, and subtle as it is, he's a very nice guy. And by nice guy, I'm being sarcastic. He basically looks like the Joker and is very egotistical. Like, without the crazy part. I mean, he's self-centered and a bit wacky, but he's not like a sane asylum wacky. Anyway, there's a married couple where there's a fight because he finds a slip of paper with a woman's phone number outside because your best friend dropped it when he escorted you home. And then he forgets to throw it away or mention it to his wife. So when she's doing the laundry, she finds the number, she calls it, and she thinks he's having an affair. That was a fun one. And then later in Chapter 2, in the entire game, you find him in multiple of like the little arenas you fight in, and he always has a different wig because part of his character is he's bald and he doesn't like it. Anyway, hilarious. Anyway, through Chapter 1 and 2, you unlock half of the weapons, and then the other half in Chapter 2. They're divided into 5 things. There is the body that you're using, or the robot. It affects basically your movement. Some are like, they're ground-based, aerial-based. There's one that can teleport. They're all unique, and if you finish Chapter 2, you can unlock illegal parts, which are just better parts than regular ones. Like, how to explain this? For instance, there's a set of models that can teleport. The legal variant can do it 3 times. The illegal one can do it 5 times. So they're basically just better versions used by the various evil bosses of Organization Z. I don't know if Organization's in there, but it's called Z, or maybe it's the Z Syndicate. I can't remember. It's been years since I played this game, but it's Z, the letter Z. After this, you have your guns, which are your basic main attack. They all attack differently. There's like a flamethrower, it's like medium to short range. Guns and most of the other things I'll mention after guns, some of them like function differently from the air versus the ground. Like if you shoot them in the air, they might attack faster, or if you shoot them in the ground, you might shoot 2 projectiles, but they're slower. It's a gun-by-gun basis. Again, there are legal variants of guns. They're just better versions of guns that already exist, and so on and so forth. They're bombs, while guns tend to only focus on the enemy robots. Bombs can be shot anywhere on the battlefield, and you can use them more strategically, like shoot it in front of them so that they either have to dodge it and leaves them open to your attack, or they run into it, or stuff like that. Then there's pods, which are basically AI bombs, and they just do what they want. They all act differently, but they usually tend to go for the enemy and deal damage. But you can't really control them. It's just they have their own set way of working. Each one of them does. Then you have legs. Legs are the most minor change. They give you small differences, like maybe you'll jump slightly higher, you'll move faster on the ground, but you can't turn as well. You can turn better, but you can't. It's very. I've played this game a lot. I'm not the most observant person, but I noticed no difference with any of these legs. It's there, I think, but it's not noticeable in a significant way. It's not like you get like there's not one that just gives you like a double jump. I mean, some robots have double jump, but you know what I mean. They're very minor change. And since there's not many of them in like cups or whatever you'd call it for the second chapter, they don't get locked out because there's just not enough of them. There's only like 15, while there might be like 40 guns. So you don't have as many options there. Anyway. Lastly is arcade and versus just the various types of modes you can use, like 1v2 where it's like one person versus two people, or tag team where you can use two robots and you switch between them, but they each have their own health bar, and if one goes down then you lose that round. Then there's like free for all, where there's like it could be like 3 or 4 people and you have to like change between targets, but it's everyone for themselves. There's like team battles, which is just 2v2, and I think that's it. Arcade lets you fight against countless AI in the same thing, but you unlock 3D models to look in the part index, which is a very minor feature. Again, I didn't play Versus very much because I didn't have any friends that live nearby. And Arcade, I was more focused on the story, so I didn't really care. But it's there. It's more fun. This is a really good party game after you beat the story, because you have to beat the story to get the weapons. It's the only flaw in it, and then you're better than everyone else at it, unless they also own it. So I'm not saying the game's perfect by any means, but it's a good like party game that you can play next to like Smash Brothers or Mario Kart or something. It's just mindless fun to have with friends on the couch. Anyway, that sounded terrible, but I'm gonna keep it in because perverts deserve a laugh too. Anyway, in closing, great game. I'm no person for scores, but if I had like a list of favorite games, this would be in the top 20, top 15, maybe top 10. I've played a lot of video games. There's a lot of them out there. I don't know. Play it if you get a chance. Emulate it. I don't care. Do something. Have fun. Good day.